Aloha and welcome. Thank you so much for coming to our HOMA program today, Ku'i Kamana, Caring for Communities. My name is Helena Norton Westbrook, and I am the Director and CEO of the Honolulu Museum of Art. This is the 8th of 10 programs dedicated to Au'a, an important work by Kapulani Landgraf. I'm grateful for the rich discourse we have cultivated around this significant work in the museum's collection. Kapulani's artistic talent, courage, and tenacious advocacy have produced this groundbreaking artwork and have built community in the process. It has been the spark that has ignited the fruitful discussions that have taken place as a result, and I know that I, our staff, and so much of the community is thankful for that and grateful for that. I want to take this opportunity to thank the artists, scholars, cultural practitioners, and community leaders who have participated in this series. Mahalo nui to Kapulani Landgraf and Dr. Karen Kosasa for their tireless efforts. Yeah. Mahalo to Kamehameha Schools for their generous support, and to UH Manoa Better Tomorrow Speaker Series, Department of Art and Art History, Department of American Studies, and Museum Studies Graduate Certificate Program for their additional support as well. And of course, mahalo to all of our HOMA staff who have embraced this series of programming, who carry it in their heart, who are fiercely advocating for it at every turn, and who are really just such an incredible group of people that I'm so honored to work with. So special thanks especially to Tyler Can, our Senior Curator of Modern Contemporary Art, and the public programming team, Amy Endres, Sarah Fang, the theater staff, and Christine Boutros and her team. So thank you so much to those members of the HOMA staff. Today's discussion focuses on community. The panel will explore the challenges, strategies, and victories in the practices of kapu, mālama, and aloha to protect, sustain, and empower Kanaka ʻŌiwi communities. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Thank you so much to our panelists. I'm going to invite Tyler up to say a few additional words, but thank you.
Aloha. Thank you for coming across the street. I just wanted to recognize the significance of today, la ho'i and the important sense of place. It all happened right there across the street. The restoration of the Hawaiian kingdom, which was quote unquote taken. And creating a sense of place was a real fundamental thing for this exhibition overall, to really recognize where we are in the world and to recognize the history, the shared history that we all carry and the possibilities, for the future. Whoever exercises power over Hawaii, this institution will be here and working, doing this. The mission does not change. It is really here for you. And this has been really a deep pleasure and privilege for me to first of all be here doing this kind of work that we do, and to have worked with Kapulani, with Karen, with so many others. Also, folks, as you said, folks here on our team who are really also feeling great that this exhibition is here right now. So with that, my only job really up here was to introduce our moderator. Mehanaokala Hind is a kumu hula and cultural practitioner, skilled certainly in hula and oli, and descends from the hula lineage of Kumuhula Mehanaokala Hind, and earned the rank of Kumuhula in 2009 when she completed the uniki rites set forth by her kumu, trained in Mele'oli by Hawaiʻi's master chanters. Mehana brings the breadth and depth of relationships with Native Hawaiian communities, leaders, schools, and organization that is amazing. She is also a senior advisor to the CEO at Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement. So with that, I will let Mehana introduce the rest of our esteemed panelists. I mean, the mana on this stage is powerful. So thank you. Mahalo.
O wili ake po o akala o ka hokola kai apa e ke ki mokula a kanalo o la na I ka ula ka ula bahine kala ku pua e na apo e ka papalani o moloka inui ke ki mokua hina ua o marame kala I ka lolo pua o ahu ke ki a lua lawa pa I ke mo aka I ke ala velona kupuna I ka Hawaiʻi nei a ka loloa, kupopo I ho ka pali o ke, o ni hau ka pani nā ka. Noho I ke a ka helo a ka hiki moe, ke lei huahi a ka hopoi no ke I. Aloha mai kako.
Mahalo. Mahalo for that introduction, and mahalo for inviting us into your folks' hale here and this wonderful theater. I've had many amazing experience in this theater right here. So mahalo nui for that, and mahalo nui for supporting our artists like Kapulani. If you guys have not seen, I don't know, how many of you have seen the exhibition upstairs? Okay, so there's a few of you that don't have your hands raised, right? Go upstairs after this and go and partake in the story that Kapulani has curated for all of us through her art up there. Today, I am humbled on this stage. I'm not humbled often, but I am I am definitely humbled today by this group of Kanaka up here who have lives and communities and whole institutions have positively impacted, all those spaces that they go in. They never cease to stop either. They continue to do that wherever they walk and wherever they get a chance to share what it is that they do. I'm gonna just start from this side and just introduce them all the way down, and then we'll jump right into the discussion. By the way, all everybody up here, they don't know what they're gonna talk about. Yeah. They was trying to figure that out. They're still trying to figure them out in their head. But you're gonna get the sage wisdom here today out of that. Because they no need. They don't need make outline. They don't need, prep and dissertation, right? They have lived, they have struggled through, they have achieved, they have struggled again, right? They have navigated, right? And they have given birth to other navigators, others who are carving pathways through here. Yeah, so not to fear. It's all going to be wonderful. And I'm saying that to them because I know there was a lot of that kind. Like, okay, what are we going to do here today? The woman that sits right next to me, to my left here, many of you out there know her as Auntie Tammy Smith. She is the mama aipono to all of us. Her and her father's legacy, Uncle Herbert, who is still out there educating us about our health and our well-being. From the shores of Molokai, though, he's doing it. So we don't get to see him that much anymore. But Auntie Tammy is a part of that legacy, that Ohana legacy of what most people would think is just making food. Yeah? For us in Hawaii, just making food is an entire cultural practice that involves so much layered, interwoven relationships, not just between family and family members and community members and farmers, and shopkeepers and, things like that, right? But all of that is navigated when you say, oh, they just make food. Right? What we simplify so easily, right, is in this woman's life every day. She has a catering company along with her family called Cater for You. Many of us have spent many long hours out in Kailua at their previous space, Hale Ke Aloha. And we've, had them come and bring that very important source for us into our homes when we've, Auntie Tammy, you can come cater for our wedding. You can come cater food. You can come, bring aipono into our ohanas every day, right? And Auntie Tammy has done that. She does that whether it's 5 people, 5,000 people, 20,000 people. Auntie Tammy has been there for the lahui. She's shown up. She's trained people like me who should not be allowed in the kitchen, to have a role and a space in providing the sustenance for all the work that is being done, right? Everybody, put ilima, please, for Auntie Tammy Smith. Our next panelist, and she gave birth to the lahui too. Like she had plenty kids, plenty grandkids, and they all part of it. That's important to note, right? Because in all of that action of community building, her herself was, giving birth to, and then hanaing all the kids too, right? Hanai everybody's kids, around, so that when they think of Auntie Tammy, right, that's Tutu. That's mama. Yeah? Okay. I'm going to go on and on and on for each one of them. Next to Auntie Tammy is Dr. Lynette Cruz. Dr. Lynette Cruz is still, I found out today, like faculty. They have her on as a resident kupuna over at the Hawaii Pacific University. I think the smartest move Hawaii Pacific University ever did. In bringing her in to be able to impact those students there. But Kumu Lynette is also the head of Mālama Makua, and she's been that for the past 9 years. If you guys are not familiar with Makua Valley and the battles and the victories and the learning, right, and the interactions that Mālama Makua has had over the decades, you should talk to Auntie Lynette after and go out to that place and help educate other people. She's also one of those people that is very active on social media. Yeah? There you go. Yeah, if you guys have not friended her, you should friend Lynette Cruz on Instagram and on Facebook, because she is one of those people who calls out to the community, does a call out to the lahui to go and mālama all the wahipana, right? Today specifically, having to do with la ho'i ea. Auntie Lynette is probably the focal person, right, that gets everybody to go up to Kaniaka Pupu, right, which is the counterpart to Thomas Square. Yeah, you have Thomas Square, Kaiha'o Church, and you have Kaniaka Pupu. They are all involved in what we know of as La Ho'i Ea, La Ku'oko'a, the time of Kaui Keauli. And thankfully, to Auntie Lynette, who continually, consistently calls out to the community to gather, go up there, and cut grass. Yeah? Cut grass is the code word, go weed whack grass is the code word for mālama, for taking care of that space. Yeah, it's one of the first steps. Clear it, clean it, make it ma'e for the kupuna who are still there. Yeah? And then the learning begins. And she's been involved in that work. I met Auntie Lynette. Well, I didn't meet her. I saw her for the first time. I was a very young, starstruck kind, feisty little, Kanaka, just learning about sovereignty, learning about other issues. And the first time I saw her was in a community meeting, in a hearing, and there was great lessons learned just by me observing her that I still embrace as my practice, part of my practice, yeah? And so I know that if I was impacted, she's impacted many like that, So mahalo pa'ipa'i makako for Dr. Lynette Cruz. Next to her, is someone I knew from our college. She's like my kua'ana at the university system. They were the rabble-rousers, her generation at the University of Hawaii at Mānoa, right? In the heat of the 90s, in the early 90s, when Hawaiian studies at the university started to gain more traction and more visibility, and more people were learning about our history. Like before that was foreign. I know Uncle Walter has stories about that too. Like lahui, very foreign to us, right? Just even the concept. Today, everybody know. Yeah, we all know what that means, kind of, yeah. But Kahele was a part of that movement. Well, she's from Maui. Sorry, these two are from Oahu. Yeah, she's from Maui, but I know of her from when she came to Oahu and had a huge impact, not only for students at the University of Hawaii at Mānoa, and the kind of kua'ana that gave us examples that it was okay to be Kanaka, right? It was more than okay. It was duty. It was your kuleana to do that. And Kahele was that type of person, and she still is. All of us who are younger, don't tell her, but all of us who are younger than her, we're really scared of her. All she had to do is just look, and all was like, oh my God, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Yeah. But then also in the Hawaiian immersion movement, yeah, for a long time, she spent a long time, how many years at Anuenue? 8 years? Yeah. She spent some time at Anuenue Elementary School, or not elementary school, but Anuenue Hawaiian Immersion School up in Palolo Valley, and help shape that school, help really get in there and shape that school to what it is today and the growth that it's had over the years. Right? Kahele was there in those times, and now she serves as the VC, the Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs at Maui College, the University of Hawaii Maui College. Yeah. That's huge. That's a huge, if you guys are familiar, I see some university people in here, right? We know the impact of what the academic affairs handles. They handle what classes can and cannot, right? They're the gatekeepers to what gets taught and what does not, what gets funded and what does not, right? So to have Kahele in that super important position, right, in Maui, at Maui College, right, is a testament to her tenacity, right? AKA the things that make us scared of her, yeah, also scares all the other people too. And I told her earlier, I was referring to one of our other good friends and our mentors, Ekela, but it's that kind of scary that you just feel so much love by, yeah, is what Kahele brings to a lot of us in our communities. So pa'ipa'i makako for Kahele Dukelow. Finally, we have on the end of the panel, probably our senior member of the panel. But don't get it fooled, he is feisty. He did take on one-on-one the United States military, so he's not nobody to count out at all. But Uncle Walter Ritte, of course, has been from the time of the Kaho'olawe occupations and assuring in a time where, again, things like lahui wasn't, everybody didn't know that. Being Hawaiian was not something that was embraced by everybody, right? In a time that was so tumultuous in our history, right? You had these brave souls, right? These brave people who forsake their own, their own sense of security and put themselves out there, right? Who can say that? How many people do we know who can say that have put themselves out there in danger because they believed in aloha aina? Uncle Walter is that. He's that pull in our hale that allows us to know that, right? You can do that. You should do that. You can be there. You can step out into the waters that maybe we don't know what the answers are going to be, right? But if you believe in aloha aina, right? If you have a practice of aloha aina, if you just see something that's unjust, right? If you see injustice, right, that you got to go do it. And he spent the last 70 years doing that, yeah? 60 years, because you're 79 now, yeah? 20 years, well, how long? He said 20 years.
Since he was 20.
Oh, since you was 20, yeah. And I know you just celebrated your 78th birthday, yeah, last year, yeah? Last year was 78, so you're 79 now? Are you 79? He's like, Mehana, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter how old I am, yeah. But that's remarkable for a lot of us, right? Who have to go like, oh, geez, what have I done in my life? Who makes us ask critical questions of ourselves, knowing what the injustices that are still out there, right? And a testament to that. He's also the head of a nonprofit based on the island of Molokai for the fish pond called Keawanui. And it is a glorious space. You guys are growing all the ulu now. It's fish pond. I know get kalo. You guys growing ulu trees. Just they're creating abundance in their backyard, right? Keawanui, they come from Molokai in their backyard, creating the systems by which abundance can thrive. Yeah. So this it almost seems like a natural progression from rebel. Yeah, to farmer. Yeah, yeah. Either farmers turn into rebels or the rebels turn into farmers. Yeah, and that's in Hawaii that totally makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense for us. That's a good thing. That's a really good thing. Both ways. Yeah, when that happens. Okay, enough of me talking now. I'm gonna ask the question now. If you guys saw what this the topic that we had, right? It was like everything. Was everything. They just threw in everything. Just like aloha and kapu and mālama. And we want to hear about victories and strategies and challenges, right? Like basically the entire life stories of all of these people up here, right? So in an effort to make sure that we can, have a good conversation up here and have everybody talk, we decided to start with victories, that victories part of the topic area, yeah. And because so much times other people want to impose on us, or at one time we spoke from the disparities, right? Which and it's totally relevant for us to talk about the injustices and the disparities and how those are still prevalent here. But from what's going on across the street over there, if you guys have seen it, and just the explosion of people who are just the numbers, the sheer numbers, and the diversity of the peoples who are across the street, all getting educated about ea, right? About what that means, and ho'i ea, and e mau ke ea, right? We didn't achieve, like we are living that, right? What is that ea that it is that we bring forward? So in talking about, I'm going to ask you guys, And you guys are all older than me. I just want to make that clear. Yeah, you guys are all older than me. So you guys can push back at any time too. You know what, Mehana, I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about this because this is what's relevant, for this group, and for all of you here. But is the victories that we can celebrate as a people, right? That was born out of struggle. Right, that we had to enact kapu, aloha, mālama, in those things in order for it to become a victory. I'm going to start with Kahele. If you would, yeah. How would you, or what is that victory?
So I think maybe first would be, maybe I want to call them holomua in the ways that we've grown and moved forward. I think the idea of a victory is like you won and it's done. And I think we're certainly in progress and continuing to work towards to work towards sovereignty. But one of the things that I think is very different today than it was when I was in college, where I began to think of this concept, is the idea that today we can say the word lahui and people know what we're talking about. And I think most Hawaiians would embrace that. Like, yeah, we are a people. We are a lahui. And I think that's pretty recent. I know 20, 30 years ago, I know I didn't, and I know my family didn't. We saw ourselves as Hawaiians, as a race, as an ethnicity. But as far as recognizing that we could be a people that could work together towards other things is something that I didn't see back in the day, 20, 30 years ago. But as I, and sort of, the consciousness of what lahui is and what it can be. And for me, that began to grow in college, just when I began to learn about history, because I grew up, my dad was a fireman, but on his days off, right, he was kalo farming. So I grew up with that foundation, that cultural practice, that foundation of working on the land, working hard, eating Hawaiian foods, spending lots of time, most of our time outside on the aina doing those kinds of things. So I had that cultural underpinning, but I didn't have the consciousness of history. I had no idea that we were a lahui, right? I didn't have that in my mind. I didn't know, I had the 11th grade modern history of Hawaii sort of bullshit history class that mostly just enrages you, then, teach you about the true history of Hawaii, which hopefully it's changing. So the idea of, learning about history and how that knowledge begins to reshape what you think about yourself in the present day, right? So when we talk about how important history is, it's not really just so we know what happened in the past, right? It's more about how we understand ourselves and then how we see ourselves moving forward and building something better. So this idea of lahui, I think that I guess and it's not something that was never there, right? It was intentionally squashed, right, during the territorial period statehood. And it's something that in the last probably 30 or 40 years has been, again, intentionally raised, again, through education, through working in the community, through being a rebel, and calling out the injustices that we see around, even recognizing that it is an injustice, right, is something that I think we do way better of today. I think, we spent decades in a time, right before statehood and a little bit after that, not recognizing, and partly induced by the way we were forced to live and having to survive. It's really difficult to try and, call out things that are wrong when you're just trying to feed your families and exist. I think that the idea of Hawaiians being a lahui a people, but also the idea of building a nation, right? Through, again, all of the good work that people on this stage have been doing, through education, and again, through reconnecting and redefining what we are and how we want to live and how we want the next generations to live in our place in Hawaii.
Mahalo, Kahele. And do you think the strategy that helped get that there, specifically around Lahui, was that immersion? Was that Ike Hawaii? Was that the switch turned on, for a lot of people at the university level, and then proliferating back into the communities?
Absolutely. I know for me, it started, I knew a little bit of it at home, water rights, different kinds of things. Makena, the development of Makena, right? I was young, but, I was seeing these things happen. But when I got to the university, the university, anyway, I'll just say that it provided...
Yeah, we know what you're talking about. Yeah.
It provided me the time to really think about and learn about history, language, and how they interconnected to create a Lahui. It also afforded me the opportunity to meet lots of the people here, right, to engage in different community issues with different people that I don't think I would have been able to do so quickly if I didn't come here. And in the 90s, the university was a place where it was on fire. There was a lot going on, and especially that really that connection to what was happening in the community, because I believe that that's what higher education is for. It's not to sort of be an ivory tower where academics play their academic games. If it's not helping community and it's not helping Lahui, I don't know that it's really, should be supported by our public dollars. But
Yeah, that's for all you people who work at the university, right? Take that back to your departments, embrace that, yeah. Uncle Walter, I remember hearing from you a similar story about that, about where it is that you learned about Hawaiian people, right? And because you went to Kamehameha, and I remember you saying it didn't happen there. Yeah, when you was going there. It's a different Kamehameha now, so any teachers in here, not talking about you guys, but, Uncle Walter's time. I remember you saying that so clearly, and I'm a public school girl all the way, right? And so I was just like, yeah, that's why they never let me in to the school, but you have a similar story about that, like where you had to learn how to do that. And I don't know, maybe you can use that as kind of a bridge into any of the victories that you have experienced or seen.
Yeah, education. Oh, boy. I went to a school for Hawaiians. It was called Kamehameha Schools. And it turned out it wasn't a Hawaiian school at all. I graduated in 1963. And my choices was either be a policeman or a fireman, but especially go to Annapolis and go into the wars. All of my teachers were non-Hawaiians. There were non-Hawaiians that attended our school, even though the rules said that this was a school for Hawaiians. And this was because they were the sons of military teachers. We had a lot of military teachers. So from the time you get up to the time you go to bed, every minute of the day is prearranged. You do not think, you just do. So when that bugle blows and you get up until they tell you lights out. So that was 6 years. So you can imagine what happened when I graduated. So I can condemn all of that because I was living through that. But But I have to say, what is happening now is like night and day. So I sleep good at night, knowing that there is a hope that in the educational system, we're actually going to have Hawaiians coming out of that educational system. So I started supporting. I still never go to my class reunion yet, but I still supporting. They do old folk stuff, that's why. So in that sense, things are changing. I was across the street today, and I saw Hawaiians alive and well and doing good. When I graduated from Kamehameha, there was no overthrow. I graduated, and I didn't know there was an overthrow. So I went home to Molokai, and we heard from Louisa Rice, who was living on Molokai. She found a book in the back of a taxi cab that was written by the Queen. Wow. And it said that there was an overthrow. Wow. You know, I mean, if you learn about the overthrow systematically in a system, there's a chance you can come out not being so pissed off. But try to learn about the thing, drinking beer and on party about something in the back of a car, and we was pissed off. So that was our generation, was like, we was angry. Something was wrong. So I don't know what the answer is, but that's my 2 minutes spiel right now.
And then, what would you consider today? Because you bridged today, yeah. Is there victories that you can point out and you can go, yeah, is because of our way of enacting aloha, or our way of embracing the kuleana to mālama something. That hope that you talked about is big too.
Yeah, your question kind of complicated, so I'll answer this way. I was talking story one time on Maui, and the question asked from the panel is one word. Give us one word that describes you and what you do. It was hard, right? One word. Oh my gosh. So the word for me was survival. Survival was the word that I would use to describe everything that I was trying to do, or everything that I get involved with, was the word survival. So on Molokai, I guess I graduated like pissed off, right? I was graduated as an angry little Hawaiian boy. And I got into, Molokai is small, so quick you can get into political trouble. So quick I couldn't get a job. I got like earmarked. I was on somebody's list, so I couldn't get a job, but I had to survive. So I got married to a really beautiful girl, and so I had to survive, and I couldn't get a job. So to survive, I had to be a hunter to feed my family. And worse is the deer, they don't know how to read these signs that says kapu, keep out. So I had to follow the deer. I got into deeper and deeper political trouble, but I still had to survive. So I found out that Hawaiians had rights of access. What? Even the no trespassing sign, yep, you have rights of access. Of course, it's a lot more complicated than that, but I went. I got arrested. I ended up in court, and I told a judge, I have rights of access, you know? So then I had to learn all of these laws that I didn't understand and didn't know about in order to survive. So being a hunter got me into more trouble. And then this crazy guy named Charlie Maxwell, he called me up on the phone and he said, hey, you guys, because we organized so that we could say, look, we have these rights, we have to organize. Like 2 guys, no matter. You need 5 guys, 10 guys, 20 guys. So we all marched across to show we have access. And the police, Maui police, they put the cars from the police department on a barge from Maui Sent them to Molokai, and they all was on the hill with the police cars and everything. They're going to arrest all of us. So that brought TV cameras and helicopters and everything, and we marched. Hundreds of us marched. And that was the first time Hawaiians actually did something like that. Like, we're supposed to dive for quarters at the Lurleen when they throw the 50 cents in the water. You dive and you smile. You go, I go, thank you, thank you. So it was different what we're doing. So anyway, that whole idea for Hawaiians to have rights started becoming more and more and more. So Charlie says, we need somebody to hunt. Come to Kaheleonolani. Shoot. Then I go over there, and everybody gets arrested. Emmett and I stays on the island. We walk for 2 or 3 days, and the island just grabbed us. And the island said to me, I'm going to die. Wow. I mean, I was mad because it was blowing up all of our historic sites. And we don't have a written language. How the hell are we going to learn about our kupuna if number one written language was the sites? And they were bombing them and blowing them up. They were destroying our history. That made me mad. But when the island said it was going to die, that was it. It was a gone on my part. So I think I'll stop right there.
Oh, mahalo. No mahalo for that, Anakala. Oh, yeah. Ooh. I think we just need to exhale for a little bit. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that with us, Uncle, and taking us to those points of, you know, those are like real big wake-up calls, yeah, for Kanaka. When you put in a situation, it's all, you know, glorious and young, you know, when you're young and you get all the energy, and then you like, oh, this is real. And now it's not just real for me, it's real for this aina. Yeah, and saying that. You know, Lynette, you interact too with your work with Mālama Makua, your work with the Kupuna Council in Waianae, and your work over the years, right, in various aspects of community organizing. You've had to deal with the U.S. military too, at different intersections, and to call that out too, to specifically call out the aina needs to heal. The aina is hurting in that. Do you wanna? And again, you guys can reserve your kupuna rights to talk about anything else you like, but to bridge that, right? And the work that you've done is tremendous. And I think maybe I see it now. I see Waianae incredibly engaged. I see a Waianae that is, you know, because of the work of Uncle Sparky and Auntie and Eric Eno's folks and, you know, all the people who, you know, have been there, that you have a Waianae that's incredibly engaged, you know, at this day and age. And the Kupuna Council itself, I hear about the Kupuna Council from military higher-ups, from the business community. They all know they got to come talk to you guys. If they're going anywhere past Kapolei, they have to talk to the Kupuna Council. Then they're going to show up to your guys' halavais, right? And for me, I see that as a victory. When you get Kupuna now reinstated and organically, right, being observed as the leadership that you have to approach first before you go do anything in Waianae, yeah, that's the win. But how about for you? What is your perspective on that?
Victory. I'm still here. That's a victory. I'm old and woke.
Oh,
That's why it's a victory, because I'm old and woke.
I know. I thought you guys was like doing junk in a pool at one time, you know, but that's good. Yeah, you win. Yeah.
So the fact that I'm still here, it tells me I still got stuff to do. So right now, across the street, our friend, our buddy, Sparky Rodriguez, is being honored. And good on Sparky. But we put in our time. We've been doing this for a long time, and I think what I have learned as a non-academic, I went through the system, but that didn't make me an academic, and what it made me think about is how you put that information to use. So for us, it's, you can talk all you like, but the work needs to be done on the aina. So what we've been doing for, I don't know how long, was encouraging students to go meet these places because they're important. They're important to our history, and they're important to our health. So everything that we talk about, everything we do, it's tied to how we can survive as Kanaka, as people actually. If you're not gonna love your aina, the aina not gonna love you. You gotta go there, you gotta love your aina. And I know that, I think, I don't know who's back there because it's kind of dark where you guys are, but I'm pretty sure Lena came in. Love your aina. Lead with aloha. That's hard. I'm just going to tell you that because we deal with a lot of military and others. Lead with aloha. That's a challenge. And then the last thing for us is always stand in pono. We work with so many people who actually lie. So what that means, we cannot work with government too much. But we're required to stand in pono. So we do the best we can with what we got. And so far that keeps us together as people on aina, as people who care about each other and love each other. And I gotta shout out to Waianae. Waianae got the most challenges, and everybody knows it. Why are we hosting everything for the rest of the island? How come you guys put your trash in our community? How come we gotta host Hawaiʻi Electric and they dump their shit in our community? But we do it, we've been taking it, but we're not gonna take that much longer. And so if there's one thing that I would like to claim as a kind of victory, is the reality that we fight. We're not putting up with shit anymore. And it's been generations. Yeah. So when you see us go like this, that's what that is. Enough. And so because I feel like that, I feel happy. I feel like if we want to be healthy, if we want to be happy, we're going to have to own the kuleana that we have been given. This is still our aina. When we love this aina, and we mālama this aina, and we mālama the communities that belong to all the aina, we're going to win. And we're going to live longer than you. And I know, I'm proof. And that pretty much, that's it.
Mahalo. Mahalo. Auntie Tammy, you've been one of the biggest advocates. And so your name comes up all the time when we're talking about food security. And food security is huge in Hawaii, right? We have 90% of our food coming off of a barge, out of a container, off of a ship to Hawaii. We have about a little over a week's worth of food throughout our paena, except Molokai. Molokai, I think you guys are going to survive everything because you guys, when all the lights go off, all the electricity go off, we're all going Molokai because they're the only ones who will know how to survive. But when in those conversations, in those very relevant, really tough conversations, the battle rages throughout when it talks about food security. But your name comes up a lot, and it's because of your ability to do what we was talking about in the green room, right? Network, build systems of people and relationships with farmers, with other food producers, right? Everybody thinks she just cooked the food. No. The knowledge system that goes behind all of that is tremendous, right? So that she can do it with ease. But in that connection, in that vein of aina, and I know we were talking about victories, you're talking about these the bebes, right? All these young people who you've got to nurture over the years, right? And they are very much about aina. right? The aina meaning, the sustenance, the food that feeds them, aina, that creative energy that, creates abundance, for our communities. And you did that, right? You want to talk about that as a victory?
Yeah. So, I mean, people, again, like a lot of people just say, "Ah, you just cook." I say that too. I just cook. But there's so much more behind just cooking, right? It's on full circle. It's a lot of relationship building throughout all of food, right? And for me, victories can never be compared to Uncle Walter's victories, Auntie Lynette's victories, and Kahele's victories. One is because my kuleana to them for the work that they get to do and I don't do, I can at least feed them so that they can be nourished and do the work that they do. That's my personal victory, for sure. And if I could have that moment like Uncle Walter and say that the Aina told me that it was dying, I would do my everything too. And he has. And I for sure have learned that, especially in the last couple of years, being more involved with him on a one-on-one basis, on really learning about these heroes in our communities and believing in their work. Because if you don't know history and not be angry and not be willing to beef everybody in your face, then what are you doing? Then what is your victory? And I get that challenge every single day with food. And it does start with our government. But my victories, my smallest victories, is in the kids that I get to nourish, that I get to watch grow up, that I get to be in the kitchen with, that I encourage them to always be hungry for our Aina food. That's my victories with these babies. And now they just graduated from high school, a lot of them, and I've done their graduation parties this past summers. And to know that they know what good food is, what is Aina Momona, what does Aina Momona look like? When you can put haloa on your plate and be plentiful, and when you get along with that haloa, then you've done your job, because they're craving for that ono. And they're also craving that the community continue to have that ono. And that I know our future and our future generation is in good hand with these kids that going to take off, and they're going to heal our world. And is our world bigger than Hawaii? Absolutely. Right? Because everybody looking at us. Like I tell my youngest brother, nobody care what's going on in Idaho. You can have Idaho and your brand new house, but everybody worried about what your sister doing, and who's she feeding, and how she feeding, and who's the farmer, who's her friends, and who's her neighbors, and who's the community that she impacting. That's what they're worried about. So pick and choose where you like be, bro. It ain't Idaho. So, but again, as family and as what is it? My victories is that my dad gets to see me every single day and know my work. And I'm doing Herbert Hole's work. I'm not just standing alone. I'm doing this with my husband, with my kids, with my grandchildren. It is real. Just before we came here, we had to cook for a fundraiser for Auntie Mapuana de Silva today, but knowing we have kuleana. So what is the victories is that every day my work is real. Every day I know that child that I will feed from when they was in Punana Leo preschool to graduating from Kamehameha, they're going to be okay and they're going to make big impacts in our community. And that I know that's my victory. and I get to beam with all the pride, more than their parents sometimes, I feel. And I get to absorb all of that, and I get to cherish all that moments that I will teach them what is Aina Momona, how to eat good food, and how to have that ono continue in their lifetime. And it is not only for today, it is for the rest of our lives. So my victory today, my personal victory, is to be on the stage with these buggers. And yeah, did I bring the food? Yeah. So yeah, mahalo. And just being here, being on a panel, I get plenty stories for tell. I get plenty things for talk about with food. Our government sucks. When it comes to food, we're the last on the list. It is not about food. Food comes last, which is super unfortunate. Because if no more food, what you going to do? McDonald's sucks, right? Everything off the barge. If they ain't shipping, we ain't got nothing. You guys better get on flight to Molokai because no more too much. Or you learn how to swim to Molokai, okay? But they're going to be the last island standing because I know it. Because I know Uncle's work and I know why my parents chose to retire on Molokai. Because they can thrive and live. They're living their best life. They have no worries. They don't need to even worry about traffic. But Molokai has been great to my parents. It has been great to our family. And we can only give back to such place. So when their world is ending, swim. Because that's where you're going to survive. Not here. You better get off this rock.
And what Auntie Tammy brought up is so important. In order to, for farmers, you're a kalo farmer, you like farm kalo, you got to create the demand too. And pricing has to do with that. The cost of land has to do with that, right? The access to fresh water has to do with that. So there's plenty of battles that got to be fought for that bag of poi, for that, or that kalo pa'a that you're going to eat. And Auntie Tammy has made it so that we have our young people getting used to the taste. So more than a French fry or the Manapua man, right? And I realized that's a very Oahu thing, yeah? Manapua man. I thought that was all over the place. But more than that taste that they crave for every day, that they're craving kalo now. They crave ʻŌiwi, right? Now the schools just gotta wake up to that, right? The DOE has to wake up to that, to now work with the farmers, right? And there's active motions towards that. But what Auntie Tammy started and is a part of and is a main, facilitator of is getting our people ma'a again to what our aina tastes like. And that's a whole nother layer of consciousness, right? We have to fight for the struggles to just access land. Okay, so now we're on land in some places, right? We're working within the resources. But our kids still eating McDonald's more than they should, right? Because they're not used to the taste of our aina. That's the next, I think that's the next frontier, right? I think food systems and the creation of food systems and energy, how we deal with energy here in Hawaii is probably like the next frontiers of how it is that as Kanaka we get to impact those different areas. Now I'm getting on my own soapbox. Let me turn it back to you guys. Uncle Walter, you look like you have a thought brewing in your head. His thought was, when is Mehana gonna stop talking? I know that's what he was thinking. It's not the first time he's thought that, that's why. Yeah. But when we was talking about food systems or like what's happening on your island and on your moku.
We started an organization called Aina Momona. And that is a signal that if we're gonna go anywhere, We got to look to the past. That's the mirror that you follow to survive. So why was Molokai Aina Momona? Why did, that's the traditional name of Molokai. That meant they could feed anybody. Somebody was going to attack Maui, they got to pass Molokai. So it was neutral country, feed them, give them water. They're on their way. They was going the opposite way because they got mad. Stop Molokai, we feed all the canoes. So Aina Momona became famous. So our generation realized that the reason was on the south shore of Molokai, we have the largest contiguous reef system in the United States. We have 14,000 acres of reef. And that reef system was declared a United States treasure because it's the only reef that continuously grows, because Lanai stops all of the big storms. Maui protects us from all of the storms coming in, and the reef is growing. But then we also realized that the inner reef became mudflats. The outer reef was like going crazy, growing. So now we're trying to figure out how to stop all of that erosion that's coming down. Our kupuna, the cowboys and all those guys said, oh, that's how. I was always like that. Every time it rain, everything come red. Yeah, that's how, but that's not how what's supposed to be. So that's one of our biggest issues right now is how do we stop all of the erosion, because Aina Momona needs that reef. Then the starches are North Shore valleys. The North Shore is the highest sea cliffs in the United States. And there's like 4 major valleys with 20 million gallons of pristine water flowing through, wall-to-wall terraces, all intact. Today, if we had to build them, we couldn't afford to build those things. Nobody's living there. So in comes Nature Conservancy, in comes DLNR and all the conservancies. See but don't touch. How are we going to eat if we cannot touch? We went to go into our fish ponds. They told us that's 800-year-old historic site. You cannot fool around over there. And in the front, that's wetlands. You cannot go in the wetlands. And then the federal government said, no, that's navigable waters. When high tide comes, you cannot see the top of the wall. That belongs to the federal government. It's navigable waters. Well, how the hell are we going to feed ourselves? Those battles started 20 years ago. And we're still fighting those battles just so that we can become Aina Momona. But that's why we formed our organization, and we are going to make Molokai Aina Momona again. The king brought deer. It's driving Maui crazy. But we're beginning to learn how to manage it on Molokai. And we have the food to be Aina Momona. We just gotta manage, and we gotta take care, and we gotta push the government to stop treating us like we're all dead.
Mahalo, mahalo. You know, and one of the things and has to do with our topic here is you bring up semblances of kapu, right? Because the federal government's idea of kapu, right, is protect the wetlands for the birds, right? The same thing happened in the discussion. I know Lahaina is really prevalent on everybody's mind. It's the same discussion that happened with Mokuhinia when it was talked about a few years ago in Moku'ula about restoring that site, right? The Army Corps was going to come in and then they say, okay, yeah, once we restore it, but you guys cannot go in them. You guys cannot do nothing in them because it's going to be for the birds. Like literally, and that's usually like a saying that we have. Yeah, oh, it's for the birds. No, it's like literally for the bird. Like you cannot create food systems in that space once they start using them, because the federal government's idea of kapu doesn't have to do with food systems with Aina Momona. Our specific kapu, if anybody's confused about what kapu is, right? Very clear that kapu is about the necessity to create abundance. And so things have to go into kapu, come out of kapu, right? Fish are kapu during this season, right? Because they gotta make some more babies. They gotta, I forget what the science word, the intelligent word is, but make more babies, right? They gotta do that. And then when they grow up, then it's off kapu. You can go ahead now and fish that fish, after that. You can do that. So there's a disconnect in what the government systems who regulate our natural environment, our aina, right, have when it comes to what is important here, right? And our kapu system was all about that, about creating abundance. Many people say it's like, it's to prevent you from doing something, right? It's prevent you from doing something because there is cycles that are happening that need to be cared for, and then you come out of kapu, yeah? And things get noa, right? There's not a kapu without a noa, and the cycles dictate that through there. So I think that's a lot of what you're talking about too, that disconnect between that.
Yeah, we have 3 fish ponds that they turn into bird sanctuaries, and there's no birds in them.
Right.
So we're going to take them all back.
Yeah. Mahalo. Kahele, you look like you have something to say. Yeah. This is like the rule, when you stay in school and you make eye contact with the teacher and then she calls you up. I'm so sorry. Yeah. And you make eye contact with the teacher and then you get called on. Yeah, that's what happened, Kahele.
As I was thinking, what am I going to say about this? I think, so we were talking about what are challenges, what are some of the struggles, and I think on Maui, people know that our biggest struggle is probably housing, besides the whole Lahaina issue, and housing, the issue of housing has been exacerbated by what happened in Lahaina, but it's not something new for us, and I think the way we use land, right, the way we don't use kapu, the way we prioritize profit in our county system, since, what is that, probably the late 50s, early 60s when we created Ka'anapali, right, to help feed the economic engine that was being challenged by the plantation, right? That's what they invested in. And then later in the 70s, when they began to develop the Kihei and Makena area. And so for a lot of, the idea, what are the challenges? It's a daily struggle. And in a community meeting maybe a month ago, somebody said, coming to these community meetings and testifying against things and, organizing and fighting against things, it's like a new cultural practice for Hawaiians. And I thought it is true because, we just, somebody just mentioned the idea that we're going to fight, right? So I think we've been pushed on Maui to, if you're not gonna fight against the kinds of things that will make it impossible for the next generation to live there, to be able to continue our cultural practices, be able to have that connection to our places, to our aina, to our land. I think that saying is true. It is it is a new cultural practice, and maybe it's not so new, but in order for us to impact our ability to continue to be in our place on Maui, we got to fight against some stuff. And, it's not black and white. It's a lot of gray out there. We have, in the Kihei area, we have, thousands of housing projects planned. Not houses for people who are struggling to find places, but private luxury develops mostly that are created for out-of-state people, right? For rich people, basically, that don't live here. And, those are the things that that are intentionally creating an environment where Hawaiians cannot continue to be in those places. So in Kihei, there are 3% Hawaiians.
Wow.
Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders. 50% haole. Now, that was created through land management and use, right? And I think we have to begin to think about, and I mean, this is Oahu. You've seen that happen everywhere, right? I don't know why it's taking us so long. Well, I know why, money. Money is why. So I do, I think in order to be a Hawaiian, that you awamo, that kuleana, whatever it is, we all have a little bit different kuleana on this stage. The fact that you have to be engaged and you have to accept that your life will partly be struggling against the things that have created these awful inequities for mostly Hawaiians, but other people too. And I think that that's something that our next generation, they gotta embrace, because I don't think they're gonna have a choice, because they either embrace that struggle and try and make a difference, or they gotta leave, because they're not gonna be able to survive. And those are the kinds of, when we think about what we do, it really is to make sure that Hawaiians are able to live in Hawaii for the next 100 generations. So.
Mahalo for that. Mahalo. Auntie Lynette?
I was going to cry, but I'm not going to cry. Waina is different. There are more Kanakas living out there than any place else on this island or any island. So our challenges are different. A couple things I wanted to say. Waina moku kupuna council looks at kupuna ike. What that means is they look at past. What happened in the past that we can bring forward and use now? Because you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Really, you don't. What worked then that could work now? And so we open up the door for them to talk about anything and everything. So one of the things, and I'm just going to highlight one of the programs we know about at Hawaiʻi Omakaha. They have a kupuna U-Pick. What that means is the students from the ALC programs, they come and they plant. And then when the plants are ready to harvest, they open up for kupuna to come and pick vegetables. There's no charge. So you hook up with one of the young students that's there, and they walk you around the farm and ask you what you like, auntie. And then people select what they want to cook. They're gonna take that food and they're gonna eat it. There's no charge. So we know at least these kupuna, they're gonna eat something fresh. And then also once a month, they have a community U-Pick. So it's open to anybody. So we meet there. We meet all of these people we didn't know before. We're organizing. If there's a place to sit down, want to talk story. You got your vegetables? How's it going in your house, in your community? And so every opportunity is to bring people in, bring them into the circle. Another thing that's going on is we found a wetland. Who knew? So, all the streams got cemented, concretized. And then so us, because we look, walk around and we drive around and we look down, oh my God, there's a wetland. What's in the wetland? Native birds. Okay, who's going to mālama that place? Because someone must. And then more recently, we have partnered with Auntie Blanche in Waimanalo, who has kauhale. And they reached out to us to see if we were interested, and we went and took a visit, and it was awesome. We talked story with the kupuna over there, and they love it, and they look well. For us, it's really about health and wellness, but they targeted kupuna, and they want to help us open a village in Waianae, which is good. So they came over, they made the pitch. They're being funded by the state. And so the state came along following Auntie Blanche because her program works. And it's pretty inexpensive, not millions and millions of dollars that go nowhere and take 5 or 10 years. So we have an opportunity to do something likewise, and the state has offered to step in and give us the land We select the land that we want. The state will give it to us. We will start a Kauhale project. Auntie Blanche has offered to start us off with 10 houses. These are not permanent, beautiful places to live. They're shelters. They're one room, 12 feet by 12 feet. One person can live there. And I think they make allowances sometimes for 2 people, whatever. But they're meant for kupuna first. Our kupuna should not be living on the beach. They should not be living in the parks. They are not well. But along with that are opportunities to make programs. And the site that we've selected is like not far from the wetland. So what is our thinking? We're going to develop one program where everybody go mālama the wetland. Right down the road. Connect Kuleana to that place by raising up and supporting a new kind of like volunteer workforce. That's what we do. All of us, we volunteer. Nobody making money. But the idea is to bring a benefit to community and to encourage other communities to do likewise. So yeah, action-oriented. And finally, I gotta say this because I don't think anyone is thinking about it. We live west side, right? One way in, one way out. One of our kupuna brought up the idea of closing off west side. Go make our own district. We'll go develop our own government, elect our own sheriff. And for us, let's go.
Hey, you sound like Molokai now. Yeah.
Let's go, yes. We could. But the idea is these are thoughts, these are kupuna ike. They're coming out with ideas that help us to think outside of the box. The reality is, who trusts government? Nobody on West Side. Because we never see many of those projects come to fruition in our lifetime. So you're gonna put this much money for that. 5 years later, we're still waiting. 10 years later, by then the money expired. They took it back and put them someplace else. So trust level is very low. That doesn't mean we can't do something. It means we have to do something else. So that's how I feel we're gonna move it. Yes, Walter, yes. I mean, basically, if the system doesn't work for you, find something that works for you and move it. And don't depend on somebody else's money to help you. The community's gotta put it in, and hopefully somebody can come by and say, "We got this extra $1 million, do you need it?" And we're gonna say, as long as you don't tell us what to do with it.
Mahalo, mahalo. We're at that time in our program where we want to hear from you folks. If there's any questions that you folks have for our panelists up here. And we're in a pretty small space, so I think we can hear your questions. You guys may not need to be mic'd. And then we can echo your question too. Anyone, any questions for our panelists? Before I start calling you guys out at the microphone. Okay, yeah, here. Mahalo. I'm going to echo that question for the cameras because I know they wouldn't have been able to hear that. The question was for the panelists, what are their thoughts and feelings about being a part of the exhibit that was created by Kapulani here? And what the connection between, what did you think about art and the work that they do? Did I get that right? Okay. Yeah.
I think for me personally, it's to reunite a relationship. Because I know Kapu from Waihole time, right? All the work she did in Waihole. And so reuniting the relationship, what she gave me is to be brave, to do the work that I continue to do. And because I question myself a lot of times. So when this discussion, you know, she's like, hey, you know, like, I need you for be on this panel. I was like, who, me? Yeah, I mean, I don't know, you know, and she's like, nah, you community. What else, you know? So again, she challenged me to be brave, and I'm grateful for that. And to really put myself out there in our lahui and to be recognized as such. This offered me a voice. It offered me a space to do the things that I need to do and be able to talk about it. So, mahalo to kapu.
Okay, just let me say about myself. You know, when I was thinking about the exhibit itself, it's a record. You know, for all of us who stand up and talk, we have to be able to say, I said that back in the day. I own it. And then even if it's only my photo, because there's no narrative attached to it, I was okay with having my photo taken, because I know that at some point down the road, somebody's going to say, did you do that? For real? I saw your photo. No narrative. I'm just throwing that out. Get a narrative. And documenting the things that we do, I think is really important. Not necessarily for me, for my kids, for all my kids that are out there. It's taking a position that may be hard and that may mark you, but you take it anyway.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think what the work that Kapulani does, she does what I think art should do, and what artists should do is to provoke, to push ideas forward, and I think the way that she has chosen to do this has done just that, right? It made people think like, oh, there are that many Hawaiian like leaders out there, like people, you know, like I don't think that anybody has, you know, put that many people out there as like, hey, these are people that do something for their lahui in all kinds of different capacities. And when we talk about, you know, when I think about nation building or being a lahui, that's what I think this installation has done. And again, you know, taking, you know, art is not just, we were just talking about this morning, like on Maui we have a lot of like tourist art, right? So that's like, oh, you know, painting fishes and all that kind of crap. Not crap, but you know what I mean?
Turtles,
It's like,
turtles. They're always
turtles
painting
and all that kind of
turtles.
stuff.
Yeah,
And there's
and whales.
nothing, you know, there's nothing foundational and thought-provoking and this kind of art is the kind of art that I think helps us think, document, and also move forward.
Mahalo. Uncle, you have a thought?
Scary. When I came to take the pictures, I didn't know exactly what the whole trip was all about. But I knew a lot, all the guys, if you want activists, go over there, take a picture. But what scares me is that it's in a museum. So this morning I was across the street, we was alive, we was raising the Hawaiian flag, in the afternoon I was sitting in one museum, you know, like, oh, am I dead or am I alive? What the hell is going on, you know? Why am I in this museum? And I still try to grapple with that. But I think the intentions were really, really good. And using the museum to bring us back alive is an interesting concept. You brave. But I don't know, I feel kind of comfortable today. And I think, you know, if our stories go out, then I think it's going to be worth it that we stay in the museum, but we ain't dead.
Yeah. Mahalo. Kapulani, if you ever think of a subtext for his yeah, we stay in one museum, but we're not dead. Yeah, that's gonna be your subtext underneath that. You know, and for me, what I've enjoyed about this series, right? Because same thing when Kapulani emailed or called us, right? It was just like, you like do what? For what? What you doing? You like take my picture, you know? What and what? You know, like first of all, like why me? You know, I'm sure you get, you know, everybody else. But the series, the inspiration, right? Having Hananike Trask, we got to lift her name up in here, right? As an inspiration to Kapulani for the series. Right? And its forms where that word, right, and that intention shows up. When we did the opening here, right, we had Halau Mohala Ilima come in and hula for us, ia. Right, very important. There's layers and layers. So one is the photographs that sit upstairs on the second floor. Yeah, one is that inspiration that comes from Hananike and is imbued in this idea of, and I'm putting words into your mouth, Kapulani, I know, but in leadership. Right, in working closely with the community, because it's not just every Hawaiian. And it's not Hawaiians that most people would see in the cover of Honolulu Business Magazine, right? It's not that. She's very kind of intentional at her curation of that, right? And then to have that mele, right? That mele au'aia, right? And what it means for us today. We just did it across the street earlier today. And we did it to close the ceremony part, the ceremonial aspect of what happened across the street. We used that mele to both remind the audience, but also reinvigorate our connection, right, to Aina, to the Akua, you know, and all of that, right? So she did all of that. And then she has a series like this, right? There's been numerous panels that have gone on. And there will continue to be, right? So it's like a whole multimedia, right, multi-layered presentation that the photographs are just the kind of beginning, yeah. Like it's where you start, right? And then you go watch the videos of all these panels after and start filling in the narrative pieces to who these pictures are of. Then you look at, oh, she was inspired by Hananike Trask. I don't know who that is. Maybe I got to go look. And that's going to open up a whole new world for many of you who, you know, don't know who that is. And then for all you people who like to dive deep into the cultural nuances and poetry and stuff, that go look at that mele au'aia. And go look at what it's talking about and speaking about, you know, to you. So I've appreciated that intersection between the artist and the practitioner, that can be one and the same, or, you know, how art is reflecting community and intentions and inspirations, right? And both past, present, and future through that timeline, right? And art has a great ability to do that, to sow that lei, right? You know, this is the pua of Kapulani's lei, right? These are all the flowers of this lei that are then gifted to all of you folks, right? When you guys walked in, you guys were getting a lei of a visual, right, narrative, moving storytelling through time. You know, from Lynette, who Auntie Lynette outed herself as the oldest one on here, yeah, to the baby on the panel. Over here, right? Like through all these experiences and then multiplied time and time again throughout the other panels. Yeah. So mahalo Kapulani for that. Yeah, you have a question? Good question. What's your name? And where you come from, Leomana? From Boston. Well, welcome home, Leomana. Mahalo. So what Leomana asked is, what does activism look like to each of our panelists up here?
I think for me, activism is right next to me and at the end of me.
Right next to me.
Right. Activism is how active are you in the growth of your own personal community, right? I'm a child. I have parents. I have grandparents. I have great-grandparents. I'm a parent. I have 11 children. I have 20 grandchildren. And my kuleana as a activism in our community is to always do what is expected of me as a child of all those guys behind me, and be accountable for all that I give to my community is what I feel is what I can do to be active. And how do you be active? You cannot just stay home, watch the news, and grumble, right? Because we all can do that. That's easy. But we got to get out there, we got to make changes, and we got to do, right? And we got to say, bullshit, we ain't doing that anymore. That's all part of it. And being angry is part of it. Being humble is part of it. Showing aloha is part of it. And how do you activate your own ohana to be accountable for the work that is given to you is mine.
Around 1986, my sister who lived in Waimanalo, she and her husband had 10 children. You know, if you live in any place in Hawaii and you get plenty kids, good luck if you like rent one house. I mean, serious. 2 kids, maybe. 3, 4, 5, forget it. And what happens is, and I know this for a fact, you start pretending you only have like 2 or 3 kids, and you leave the rest of your kids someplace, and then you go apply for a house, and when you get in, later on, the other kids come in because they can say, oh yeah, I got divorced from my husband, he brought the kids back, or whatever. So, but these are strategies that people use when they're being discriminated against because they have too many children. And then Hawaiians tend to be renters, not owners. So my sister who lived in Waimanalo, they got evicted. They get 10 children. Her husband worked construction. He got laid off. They ended up at Sand Island. I don't know if you guys remember Sand Island. Well, she found out she wasn't the only one. They were not the only family at Sand Island. Had choked people living in cars, in trucks, on the beach, in tents. So it was my sister. So all the family is going to the beach all the time because we got to make sure they get food or whatever it is that they need. And you learn firsthand about how come people are homeless in Hawaii, Kanaka in particular, 1986. They didn't start it. It was before that. People were living on the beach already. So my sister and her family and everybody there, they got evicted, and there's a Namaka Aina actually documented that. And they ended up at Sand Island, all of them. So we were at Sand Island too. I didn't know what I was doing, but I did talk to a lot of people, and I took a lot of photographs back then and got their stories. Almost every family of the 16 families living there is Kanaka. I think one family was Filipino. You gotta ask yourself, what is going on? And I think I started getting pissed off then. It has not left me. I have rage because it sort of pushed me to go back to school because I didn't understand what was going on. And I did. I went back to school. And the more I learned, the madder I got. And I would like to say that that has gone away because now I kind of understand what global systems look like and what the impact is on communities, even as small as ours, and the importance of Hawaii to that system. But we don't know what to do. And the reality is, if we don't figure out something to do pretty soon, we're gonna die. I don't know about everybody in Hawaii, but Kanaka are going to die. And that's something that we cannot allow to happen. So pushing back is required. The second part to that is the ones that are left, we have to live. We have to be healthy. We have to be well. That requires us on the ground to take an action to make sure that the ones that are left can be well. And so one of the reasons we push mālama aina, and we do, our kupuna are there everywhere. They're in the aina. We got to go talk story with them. We have to let them know that we know that they're still there. They didn't give up on us, that they will help us develop the strategies that we need so that we can be well, so we can fight the good fight. We'll go kick everybody else out, but maybe not, only because we had married him kind of late. There are so many lessons for us to learn, and I think as a people and as a culture, we're already in the process of change, primarily because we married them, and because we now have kuleana for them too, and that their ancestors and ours, we hope, are communing somewhere and figuring out some way that not only helps us to survive, but to thrive. We cannot go because nobody else is carrying aloha. No one. No one else really understands what kuleana means but us. And if we have anything to offer the world, it is a different way of living. Pilahi Paki said, "Inomo aloha, what you got?"
I think the one maybe philosophical concept that I want to lift here is aloha aina. And I'm going to define that because we have some disagreements on what that means. And I think, literally aloha aina is love for your land. In all the ways that we've been talking about, right? That connection, the ability to feed ourselves from this land, the ability to live on our land, the ability to have our live on the land that our kupuna were on, but also make sure that our generations to come can live on this land. But another really important cornerstone for aloha aina is the idea that we have power over ourselves, right? So that we make the decisions for ourselves. And if everybody in this room knows that that's not true today. So we're not just in this struggle as activists, as whatever it is we do. We're not just here to be more comfortable under the present system that discriminates against us, right? We are here to work towards something different. So when I say aloha aina, it's all of the kind of work, our well-being, our education, housing, all of those things that we should be determining, right? In what I don't know what that looks like, but I think every one of us on this stage can know that that's what we're working towards, something different. So I think that another thing that we have to think about if we're going to call ourselves an activist, it's not about maintaining the status quo. Even though my job, I live in the status quo. Every day it's a struggle, right? To think about, how is this decision that I'm going to make going to impact my people's ability to be Hawaiians in Hawaii? So that's one thing. If you call yourself an activist in Hawaii, you better be thinking about aloha aina in all of the ways, in all of its forms, and not just one of them or the ones that make us feel comfortable.
So an activist means you care. My wife is an activist. She feeds all of the cats and dogs, and I gotta wait until they all get fed before I get fed.
Oh, was that it? Was that your statement? Oh. And Auntie is always going, shh, you're supposed to tell everybody that. Especially if the cats and dogs are here. Yeah. There's a question.
Have any one of you on that stage has heard of Parsons syntax quantum grammar? I also known as syntax.
No, let me repeat the question. I'm going to just take your last word too, because I cannot remember the whole thing. But does any one of the panelists know what syntaxing is? I don't know.
Well, what syntaxing is that it's a way to use grammar and in sentence structuring no matter what language. And most of the language is written in an adverb, adjective, verb, pronoun type of sentence structure. So what that means is that there is ambiguity in the structuring of the sentence. So that now you don't know what to believe, or what will be implied, or what will be enforced. So when you can come from a place of having no ambiguity within your language, and that it is written in a now space continuum, meaning that it's not about the past, nor about the future. It is what is happening now. And the language needs to be written that way, so there is no ambiguity. So that now people know what is happening and what is taking place now. Because what I hear on the stage is that we are all fighting this battle through the government, and that we feel our government is against us, which is correct, because they don't see us for who we are. They see us as a piece of cargo that they get to move you around where and when they want to. And it's because of the way they set the system up, including the language and how it is written.
Yeah, mahalo for that. Mahalo. Yeah. Okay, brother.
I want to talk about that. Thank you all very much for all of us from now on your sharing today. I've gone to see the exhibit, and what I love most about these sessions is I get to meet or see the people that are in the photos. I was born and raised in Hawaiʻi, but I left for 3 decades, and so returning is very interesting to see what Hawaiian is now. I think they're 2 years back here. In one of the sessions in March, there was a question of infiltration, intervention, and what was one of the questions I had that I wrote down that day was, what constitutes ʻŌiwi? And so I'd love, because I'm not sure I'm in it, and so I would know if I heard the calling.
Mahalo.
I would love it if you could sort of talk about that.
Mahalo for that, and I'll repeat that for that. Asking the panelists, what constitutes ʻŌiwi? That's a good question, and with that, with the nuance of, am I a part of that, right? Of that definition. Kahele, you wanna kick that one off?
Sure. I think when we use the word lahui, we're talking about Hawaiians at the first level. But then I think there are other levels, right? Because like Lynette said, we married a lot of people. So you have Hawaiians as an ethnicity, but when you were talking about nationhood, that's very different, because I think it does involve other people who might not be Hawaiian, but who are working towards the good of our lahui, right? So when we talk about building a lahui, right, we're talking about people who are thinking about aloha aina as the ultimate ideology of what we do, right? So most of the time this question is, well, can non-Hawaiians be part of the lahui? And it's like, yep, in a nation sense, absolutely. Absolutely. Because I have never heard a Hawaiian say that if Hawaiians, and this was the fear in the 90s, right? We're going to kick everybody out. It's like, well, we didn't do that when we had a kingdom. And I do not see us doing that now. It comes out of fear, right? So I guess that's my answer, right? When we talk about lahui and being a nation, it includes people that have a
value system. Yeah.
So you can take it to your own ohana as your lahui. You just heard I get 11 kids, 20 grandkids. I birthed my own nation and lahui, and so I mean, with only 20 grandkids, with only 5 of my kids. I get 6 more kids that can make kids. So can you imagine what my nation going to look like? And they marry everybody. You know, we are everything a nation is in my household. That's where my nation stay, and that's my calling. And so I heard them loud and clear. My kids need me. My husband and I, love our children, our grandchildren, and we're excited for our future as one lahui within our own household. So.
When Kalakaua said, Ho'ulu lahui, Auntie Tammy said, yes, I am here for that. I heard that call, that charge, yeah. Mahalo. Yes, in the back there. Auntie Gucci.
I think we're today talking about lahui on that first level, but for everybody, when you just came home, or you've been home for decades, I'm right behind you, I'll tell you guys, your kuleana is your ohana, like how Auntie Tammy said. You mālama your ohana first before you can go help the greater community. So, when you came home 3 years ago, 10 years ago, you mālama your ohana because that's where it starts, and then it will be forever. Like Auntie said, she didn't start her lahui, she's still mālama there. And then you can go out in the community because now you get back out, right? You get on the army again. So then you can go help the community. So,
Mahalo.
you know, not any good to lahui. And I used to be very active in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, whatever. But when my mopuna needed me, I said, aloha, I gotta go mālama my mopuna. And that's what I've been doing in the last, I don't know, 20 years or so. But you gotta mālama your ohana first. That's your number one kuleana. Then you go mālama everybody else.
Mahalo. Mahalo, Auntie Gucci. Mahalo. Yeah.
What are some of the ways in which we think about Hawaiians who now live on the continent or elsewhere and Maui? How do we bring them in, keep them out, frame them?
Tell them come home.
Okay, so the question is, how do we think about Kanaka or Hawaiians who have moved away to the continental U.S. or just away, period, and how do we frame them? Do we bring them home? How does that happen? Yeah.
When I talk to my son lives in Massachusetts. I don't know why, but he has a job there, and my other son lives in Texas, and I always ask him, what you guys doing over there anyway? Well, they went because they got married they married people who lived there already. And I'm like, brother, you're raising your kids like, they're not Kanaka, actually Haole kids, right? They don't know that. They're just being raised however they're raised. And so when I get a chance to visit with them, they look like they need us. They act like they are dying to be here. They embrace us. They want to learn everything about their culture, and I don't know what to say or what to do. I like slap my kids. What were you thinking? You want your kids to grow up in a different way, then you take them. They're telling you they're not happy. And now they're all like adults already. And I would encourage people who have children who want to move away and start a new life or a new family. Ask them to rethink. Think about their kids when they grow up. Think about the fact that I think my grandchildren are lonely. I think they feel major disconnect. And I think that the kind of ways that we live in Hawaii and how we're really inclusive of family and how we get together and how we how we mālama each other, I don't think that happens everywhere. I think if it did, my grandkids would be all happy the way they are and where they are. But I don't think they are, frankly.
Yeah. You know, for me, when we just did a convention, we did a Native Hawaiian convention in Las Vegas, right, to address our populations who have moved away to the continent. Just kind of like inspired by that question, the same question, right? Like, how do we bridge home and there, and you know, do we encourage them to come back? What's going on? You know, just what is the state of Native Hawaiians in the world, right? And let's go and have those discussions in where they're at. And one of the things we found, especially with the children, was that they were there was this disconnect, there was this longing, right? And we had the kids separate from their parents, right? So the parents went to the other part of the convention, and we had the kids with us, right? And the kinds of stories and understanding of what home is, it was almost to some of them mythical. Hawaii was a myth to them. You know, it was like something that you read about in a book. I remember one of the boys thought that Hawaii was just one island. And then I was like, oh, you mean, yeah, Hawaii Island. No, there's other islands, right? And so his ignorance signaled something, right? That there was this disconnect, but he just followed all the other kids around the whole time. The kids that were from Hawaii that went up there, like just so hungry for that connection, because they get them in their DNA. You know, they get them. That cocoa that's flowing inside of them, right? Also feels the volcano, also feels the snow, right? Also feels the beaches that their tutu used to go to. Also feels the valleys, right? Also ono for the i'a and the ai and stuff like that. Like they have it, but it's getting to a point where there's so much generations away from home, right? That it's becoming mythical almost. Right, and I'm not judging that, and I don't know what the solution is for that. But for us here in Hawaii, if we can create the platforms by which our Hawaii can come home, and not have to be so, like, their families so under stress that leads to some of the other problems that we see in our families, whether it's domestic violence, you know, whether it's malnutrition, whether it's those real realities of economic decline, amongst our people, right? Whether it's houselessness, or whether it's all those things that that's one of the things that's on our list of to-dos too, which create the environment by which our Hawaii can not only just survive here, right? The ones who are already here, but the ʻauhana that we can bring home, right? Attract those skill sets back home, and so that they know, because I know your kids know that raising their kids in Hawaii is a much safer, right? Probably cleaner environment than what the potential is up there, right? Right, and it's the job. It's the job and the amount of stress that not having a job and not having a home does to a family, that creates that need to go. So a lot of us who work in housing and things like that, we got to do a better job. Yeah, we got to do a better job at that. Yeah, Uncle? No, we actually, that was the last question that we could take. Yeah. So he just didn't signal me. He was like, Mehana, that's the last one. Yeah. Thank you. Everyone, mahalo nui. Again, Auntie Tammy, Auntie Lynette, Kahele, and Uncle Walter. Before we leave, if we can just, e Hawaii e mone hanau e kuhome kulahili nei olino au ina pono lanio
Mau ke aloha, no